In this movie, I'll show you how to use the buzzwords animation preset to cycle a long list of words. I'll also show you how to save time by formatting your list in a word processor. To get started, I'll open my second composition, Cycling Text to Buzzwords. I have one layer in this comp, and I've typed countries here to remind me that I have to paste in a list of countries that my client has provided in an email. But first I'll show you how this cycling text is going to work. Select the layer, then in the Effects and Presets panel, twirl down the Animation Presets folder, twirl down Text, and then twirl down the Expressions folder. The animation preset you're looking for is Buzzwords. I can just double-click to apply it to my selected layer and run Preview. As you can see, this is automatically cycling between 1 and 10. So how is this magic happening? After all, I don't see any keyframes applied to source text. But now I have an arrow to the left of the word source text. If I click it, I can see that there's an expression applied. Now I'm not seeing the entire expression right now, so I'm going to hover my cursor right below the text until I see the cursor change, and then I'm going to click and drag it open. Now I can see all the lines in the expression. Not that I'm going to be actually editing these lines, we're actually only interested in the first line. Here you can see 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10, and in between each word is a straight line. I'm sure there's a name for this symbol, but I'm just going to call it the straight line. Now when I applied buzzwords, I not only got this expression, I also got a nice handy-dandy effect. It's called buzz frame rate, and it has one parameter called slider. So when I ran previewed and I saw this tempo, if I don't like that tempo, I can speed it up or slow it down simply by scrubbing the slider. Now just like we had in the last example, you might not want to have fractional frame rates. So maybe I'll just type 6, and that way I'll have a nice even tempo. And of course, if you're animating to music, you might be able to analyze the music, find out how many frames there are per beat, and see if you can find a frame rate that locks in with those beats. The next thing I need to address is that my client didn't want to cycle between 1 and 10. They gave me a list of countries, maybe countries that they're doing business in, and they want me to use that list. So let's go get that text. So I have my text in Microsoft Word. I'll bring that forward. Remember, we have to format it in a special way so that I have the list of countries with that straight line in between. Of course, that's not the way my client emailed me the words, so let me show you how I got to this point. Here's the list of words I got in my email. You can see they're all in uppercase or capital letters, and each line has a hard return at the end. Now, it's not important that you can see that hard return. It's just important that I know that it's there, because I need to be able to search for this symbol and then replace it with the straight line. But the first thing I'm going to do is change all of the words so that only the first letter is a capital. With all the text selected, under the Format menu, I'll select Change Case. Title case is the option I'm looking for, and I'll click OK. Well, that just saved me a lot of typing. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search for all of these hard returns and replace them with this straight line. I'm on a Mac, so I'll press Command-Shift-H to bring up the Find and Replace dialog. Since I just used it a few minutes ago to create this text, it's remembering what I was searching for before. What's important to remember is that you can't search for a hard return. You have to know the symbol that Microsoft is using to indicate a hard return. In this case, it's this little symbol followed by a P. And you find that by pressing Shift 6 and a P. Shift 6 and a P is a hard return. By the way, if you're looking for a tab, it's Shift 6 and a T. I'll just throw that in there. But I only need to find one hard return. And I'm going to replace it with that straight line symbol. So depending what keyboard you're using, you should find it pretty easily. I can do Find Next, and it'll find each one and replace it. Or I can just replace all, and it'll tell me how many changes it made. Close, and there's my text all nicely formatted. So now all I need to do is select it, copy it, go back to After Effects, and then very carefully select these words. There's a quote right before the word 1 and a close quote after 10. Don't select those. You only want to select 1 through 10, and then I paste, and I'll press delete because I don't really need that hard return there. And when I'm done, I press Enter to accept the changes. Oh, look, it's on Ireland. I didn't plan that, honestly. I'll round preview. Now I've got quite a number of words, and this is only a 5-second animation. So I'll press End, and I can see the word Afghanistan, which is actually the first word that you see at the beginning of the composition. So at the end of the comp, I'll back up a few frames just to see how many words I'm getting. Now I seem to have a few blank frames. That's because at the end of the last word, there was this straight line. So I need to just edit my script to take out that straight line, press Enter again, and now it'll go directly from the last word, the United States, and then cycle back to Afghanistan. So in my 5-second animation, I'm actually spending a few extra frames on the word Afghanistan. So I might want to tweak my frame rate very slightly to get rid of that. Another advantage of using the buzzwords expression is that when I select the layer, I don't have a whole bunch of source keyframes to worry about. In fact, there's no source keyframes. So any change I make to the character panel, such as changing the color, changing the size, and so on, I don't have to be concerned that all of the keyframes are going to update. So I think this is a great technique when you need to cycle words and they don't necessarily have to be in the foreground. Quite often, when you're creating an animated background, you just need stuff, as we call it, floating there in the background, creating a little interesting animation. You could also use this to cycle numbers or even just strange symbols.